Hello, Life Group leaders. I want to give you a quick video recap of the Life Group leader meeting we had last Sunday. It was a wonderful time of lunch we spent together, and we covered some more on this TrueFace training that we kicked off in January. But before I jump into that, I do want to highlight some things coming up in men's ministry. So, coming up on March 23rd at 8:30 a.m. is the next men's breakfast. That's just in a few weeks on a Saturday, and Gary's asking all the men of grace to be there. Now, we're going to have a special speaker there from the Better Man Ministries, and this is going to be a church-wide and actually citywide effort of churches where we're going to be hoping that the week after Easter, we're going to have a lot of Better Man groups launch. So as men's come to that event on the 23rd, they're going to hear about the opportunity to be part of a Better Man group that's going to start at Levitt Pavilion on Sunday night, April 7th. That's the Sunday right after Easter. So it's going to be a bunch of churches jumping in together. We're just really excited about this. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I really think there's a great potential for this to be really powerful in the lives of many men. Now, the reason I want you guys to think about it is I want you to think about how this is going to relate to your life group, because this could be a thing where this is an additional thing. So you guys may be meeting on Wednesdays. You're like, okay, well, we're going to do a Better Man group on a Saturday. That could totally be a thing. Could also be a thing where you're like, okay, we're going to take a break for a little bit and do Better Man, then come back as a group. Could be a thing where you can do Better Man as a part of your small group. So you can bring in the guys and say, okay, guys, we're going to do Better Man in one room and the women are going to do a different thing. Or we're going to do Better Man and then the women are just going to, tell stories of what they're going through in their lives and do some different things. There's a lot of different options there. I don't want you to walk into that Better Man's breakfast not having thought through what that could look like as a group. So with my group, what I'm going to probably encourage is for us to do it as a group together, to have the guys of my group get together and do it together. And then, if they want to do it on their own, that's totally fine. So there's a couple large gathering options. So there's going to be a Wednesday morning option with Pastor Gary. There's going to be a Sunday night option with Elder Carrie Morgan. That's kind of the current plan as I've heard it. So we'll get you more details on that soon, but I just want you to be thinking, okay, so if Better Man goes for 10 weeks starting April 7th, and Gary's asking all the men of grace to be a part of it, how does that relate to my life group? Whether you want to do it as a life group, whether it's going to be an additional thing, or how that's going to relate, I want you to be thinking about that. Now, I want to pivot going back to life group ministry. So we started in January with this whole idea with Robbie Engel's book, TrueFace. And he had this book that he wrote that if you don't have a copy of it, I would love to get in your hands. It is an excellent, excellent book called The Cure for Groups. So if you don't have that, send me an email. I'll get that to you this week. And in January, we talked about the destination for a group, and he had this picture of a ship where you don't get on the ship until you know where the ship is going. Because if you get on the ship and you think it's going one way and the ship takes off in a different direction, you're going to be disappointed. And a lot of people get involved in a group and then ask the question, is everyone in this group wanting to go the same direction? So that first session was a lot about the destination, where you wanted to go spiritually, where you want to go relationally. And it talks about setting goals for that. And then I love how he really gave a great tool for deepening the relationships in your group. So in the PDF, I'm going to attach this video. I'm going to give you all the handouts and things, but it's some of the stuff we talked about at the first session, but it's how to tell your life story. If you are able to get your group to do life stories well, there is no better way to get deeper as a group faster than a well-told life story. My group's in the middle of doing another round of that. We do it every couple of years as we have people leave, people come, and it has been wonderful the way that Robbie Engel encouraged people to tell their life story. So in the PDF, you'll see they have a preparation to share your story where you have a life map and you map out your plus 10s, your minus 10s on that life map. And then it has some great key questions, like what are 3 words to describe your home growing up? Excellent, excellent questions. That if people take the time to fill these out, it could be really helpful. And then we encourage our group to bring pictures, to bring like formative moments. And it has been such a blessing to hear testimonies from the people in my group over the last few weeks of how God has been faithful to them in so many different situations. So highly recommend it. But I think one of the coolest things at the end of it He has this way you end your life story. And this is a question he asked that's been neat to hear. In this next season, what I think God wants for my heart and my relationship with him is, and they write that out, and that's how they end their life story. So really, really excellent. If you're looking for a way to go deeper relationally, that is a great way to go. I'd love to hear if people have done the goals part, the destination part. I'd love to hear kind of what those goals were. If you haven't shared those with me yet, I'd love to hear that. Then also in January, we talked about the captain. We talked about how the captain kind of sets the tone for the group. The captain is the one who, if you come in ready to share authentically, share openly and transparently, my goodness, that is a great way to go. So that's how you help your group is you come in having prayed up, how you come in having really talked to the Lord about your group that day, prayed for different people, and you say, let's go together. So I just want to really encourage you. If you haven't seen that recap video on session 1, you can do that. So now catching up to what we covered last Sunday was we talked about the crew and the ship. And that's clarifying your group culture. Like what makes your group different than my group? What makes it connect and work for the people that are in your group? So he has a really helpful tool in the handout, which I'm going to attach to the PDF, where you have a bunch of different words that could describe your group, and probably 3 or 4 really describe your group. So you want to circle the ones of that whole list of words that these are the ones that are our identity. This is what our group is about. If someone comes to our group, this is what we're about. But then he goes on and says, what do you need to do to protect that culture? Are there certain practices or certain activities? Like, for example, if part of your group thing is authentic and real, then to protect that, you need to make sure there's confidentiality. If you're going to protect that, you make sure people aren't jumping to try to fix each other. So on that next page, he has some different ways that people think about, okay, as part of our group culture to protect it, we need to protect and create it by doing these things. We don't judge. We don't do sarcasm, whatever the things are for your group. So I highly recommend looking through that page 3 and page 4 of that group culture and really kind of look through that and say, what is it for our group that need to be regular reminders so we don't slip into some of that? And then the next part, he talked about designing your time for transformation, being intentional about how are we spending our time together so we achieve the culture we're looking for. It could be a lot of different ways. Most of the groups, the group leaders we talked on Sunday had pretty similar feel. Some of them had a meal ahead of time. So mine doesn't have a meal attached to it. A lot of people who had a meal, it was a 2-hour meeting. A lot of people who don't have a meal, it's like a 90-minute meeting. But some similarities, some have worship, some have don't, but most of them have this component of prayer, most of that component of sharing life together. But I think it's important to think about, especially the application part of whatever you're studying. So if you're thinking, okay, we spend about 20 minutes like sharing stories for the week, and we spend 30 minutes on the lesson and discussing it, going really deep, and then about like 2 minutes really how does that apply in our lives. I think we need to readjust the timings and make sure we have more time on the application side, because sometimes we can run out of time and we understood what the God said, and so we're moving on, rather than how do I need to live life different because of what I've heard. So that's an important piece of that recipe for group, has to be, God, what do I need to do different now? What faith step do I need to take today based on what I've heard, what we've talked about together, what I've come to realize is true about you and true about me and true about those around me. So that application thing is huge. If you need some ideas on how to bring that back to your group or implement that, reach out to me. I'd love to help you, encourage you in that way. And then also one last thing I'll just mention, just because it's on my brain, is Easter's coming up next month. So Easter's coming up soon. And so be also talking in groups about who is it that God may want you to bring on Easter Sunday to sit with you. See, it's so big when you invite someone, say, come to the 10:15 service, come to the 9 o'clock service, come to the 11:30 service, come to one of these services and sit with me and my family. That is huge if you can get someone to do that. So maybe spend a couple minutes in prayer this Thursday night or whenever you guys meet about what is it, who is it that we need to be praying for related to Easter, that maybe if we invite them this year, they'll say yes. So, man, that's all I got for the moment. Man, I so love hearing those great stories. If you got a good story in your group, where God really came through, or God answered, or communities happening, I love to hear those. And I'm looking forward to our next training coming up in March.